Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GANs processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
And now we'll hear from Alex Skorik on today's teaching. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much. And, what's going on?
Okay, I don't see your screen yet, but sometimes it ends up in back of my screen, depending.
We are seeing in the slide in the left, right, a little, and the principal screen.
Okay, there it is. Thank you. We're seeing your screen, Alex.
You are?
I am. I had to remove the background. It was in back of the background.
Just give me a second here, please. I'm not
No
seeing
problem.
it.
We have all the time. And then there's a couple questions in the chat that we can bring up afterwards.
Okay. Just a moment, please.
Yeah, no problem. This is a live program. And we're very fortunate to be sharing here today. We're seeing your picture now. I think it's coming. Yes, it is here. We see your screen.
Okay, I think we got what we want. So, ladies and gentlemen, what a beautiful introduction. What a fabulous introduction. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is the part of the Keshe Foundation TV program that's coming down the pike. As you can see, our family is growing, and this will be growing in leaps and bounds. And this particular process today is part of Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. We are presenting plasma science. This is now moved on to the intermediate understanding. The subject today is dimension, transfer, state. My name is Alexander. I'm from Canada. It is July 25th, 2021. And this is a presentation of the Keshe Foundation North American Plasma Education Series. We started back in the fall of last year with this program on basic teaching. We went through basic, intermediate, and advanced teaching. We tried to condense over 3,000 hours into a streamlined session of about 21 classes. All of that was part of the basic teaching. And then we wanted to extend the basic teaching into basic understanding. And we try and bridge between the old science and the new science, and to see how we can leapfrog into there. And then we carried on into the intermediate understanding, a little bit more advanced. And people are asking, well, I just want a cup of life. I just want to, overcome a few of my own personal difficulties. Why do I need to know this advanced teaching? And it is advanced teaching, but actually it's not very advanced at all. We've kind of come to the end of the road here because the teaching is changing. What we're finding is that we now have a basis of 99.86% confidence in our technology, scientifically proven. And it's confounding to see the resistance. So why the resistance? What is the payoff there? And what is it that we don't understand? And so somehow, some way, we're having a trouble with this dimension, the changing of the dimensions and being able to transfer between these dimensions. And we're having trouble to understand dynamism and physicality and how to transfer between those. And so that's the subject today is how to transfer this energy. And is it something that we can just do the way we've been doing with the spraying? It is in so many ways, but what exactly are we doing? And so when we look at the subject, we have to understand the basic terminology. So it does involve energy in motion, and that energy in motion has a direction we refer to as magnetical or gravitational. It is a natural science, it's natural plasma. And we go through various dimensions and geometries. And this is all determined by the susceptibility. So the susceptibility has to have a desire, wanting to change, wanting to do things. And for some reason, somehow there's still a resistance. And it seems that this resistance is really, really ingrained. And we all know that there's a dynamism that is going on around us. And so why are we oblivious to this? And so with the Keshe Foundation, what we've been trying to do is to understand the universal order of creation and to understand the creation of matter. And we've worked on the cups of life to achieve that. And we mustn't forget how to do that. But what we wanted to figure out is how do we get from here to there? And so as we start to explore the structure of light, because that is the conveyance, that is the, shall we say, the transport mechanism, that is the transfer state to go from here to there. And where exactly are we going? So to start off, we would like to know how the universe is created. So we said the universe is created from energy. And although this is repetitive, please understand this is for new knowledge seekers, mature knowledge seekers, and also for teachers. And to be a successful teacher, we need to be able to use the terminology in different contexts. And we need to be able to repeat it, just like we do when we go for our little espresso in the kafana and sit down with our friends and discuss all the things that are going on in our lives. And we have no trouble with the language. We have no trouble with the dialect. We can speak freely. And so we need to be able to do the same thing with the plasma science, you see, because we are part of this. We are part of the energy. That energy is always in motion. And so being in motion, it carries a charge. And from that perspective, then we find out how this energy is moving. And so we have to identify the principal matter. And the universe is full of what we call PM ticks, which are energy packs. And they look to congregate. And this is done through interaction. And through this interaction, we create a force field. And when that force field has a balance, we call that a maggrav. This is the essence of creation. And our point of view matters in this whole perspective here, because what we're going to discuss today is not so much what the solution is, but we're really going to focus on what the problem is. Because for some reason, after 20 months, we still have a problem. And we're 99.86% certain that we shouldn't have a problem. You see, because when we look at and understanding how energy is created, we see that these PM ticks are released through the nuclear decay of the neutron. This is a natural process. It's not a problem. It's a natural process. But it's not the only way that things happen. But for the purposes of this discussion, it's an intermediate teaching. Two forces come together to create a little dance. The energy cannot be stopped. It has to keep going. Energy has to keep going in motion. And so the only way to contain that energy within the field is to send it around. And that's where the rotation comes in. And depending on the strength of that rotation and how much energy is captured, determines the field strength. And so that's the z-axis. So you have basically your three axes and your three dimensions. And the thing is, we're none of these three dimensions. So the big deal is that the universe is full of energy, and this energy is always in motion. And somehow we can capture this energy and use it for our benefit. And we're doing this all the time, whether we want to, whether we know, whether we're aware, it doesn't matter. The fact that we're here, we're using this energy. And in the process of using this energy, it's like a currency. So in our society, money is the currency transaction. In plasma science, energy is the currency transaction. And so it's a fuel. Energy is a plasma fuel, but there's a big difference. You don't have to quantify it, and you don't have to pay for it. The universe provides all that you need. And it constantly provides. And this is the point. This energy is always coming in, but it's not all one energy. It's not all the same. It's just like your ice cream store. You have so many different flavors. And if the flavor suits you, then you will absorb that energy. And if it doesn't suit you, it'll just carry right on through. And when energies come together that are complementary, then they do this little dance. And then that energy keeps coming. And the reason for it is because there are many points of origin of similar energies. So these similar energies come together through an attraction, that certain attraction. And they come from all different directions. And the closer they get, the greater the tendency for them to come together. That's the point. And as they come, the field gets stronger. And so by being stronger, it's able to draw more together. And when it comes to a certain point, it creates a plasma. And this is different from things that we understand in the physicality. We're not talking about the physicality here. We're talking about plasma science. And so that plasma has a kind of a dynamism because it interacts with other plasmas. But the question really comes is if we have a plasma interaction in a certain field, and that dynamism has an interaction point, and then we have a construct, and that has an interaction point, and as these two interaction points interact, which way is it going? And so the answer is really, it's going in both directions. Well, how can it do that? How can it do that when the basic is that the stronger feeds the weaker? So therefore, what constitutes stronger and what constitutes weaker? And that's the point. So basically in plasma science, just so that you can explain to your friends, there are magnetical fields, there are gravitational fields. They work in balance. The magnetical fields give, the gravitational fields take. The question is, giving to where and taking from where? And that's not really important at this point in time. What is important to know is that in our physics, we have a core component. And we refer to the electron as being the magnetical core component. And the substructure of the electron consists of matter, dark matter, and antimatter. Okay, well, this is good. Another core component is the neutron, but the neutron is gravitation. And it has a structure, a substructure that comes from matter, antimatter, and dark matter. And so we've covered both ends, the magnetical and the gravitational. What we haven't discussed is what's in between. But what we want to understand is that there is a difference. And I put them together here so that you can clearly see what the difference is. And we see a representation with circular magnets, and they're the same way. You can't see whether or not they're attracting or repelling, but there are forces that are doing something. So in this case, these two magnets are together, and for the purposes of this discussion, I put them on a towel, and I squinched up the towel, and I decided to release the magnets, and they did, and pow, they spread apart, all on their own. I didn't have a hand in it. In fact, I removed my hand. That's how it happened. But it only moved so far, and then it stopped. So there was something working in opposite to what we see here as repulsion. And so that creates a balance. And that's the point. This is how we build the various dimensions. We have a point, we add a second point, and then we connect. And how far are these points? Well, that's determined by the repulsion. Yes, it is, but it's also determined by the attraction. And I'm sure you can see the difference now. So when we look at the fields, we find that they're not linear, they're curved. Things are curved because the x-axis is the rotating field. The y-axis goes through the poles, and the z-axis is the field strength. And so this is only half the picture. When we look at the Earth, we have two halves. And you know, if you have two halves the same, that they repel. So we have to flip the poles around and see that they attract. Now we've got the whole picture. Now we have a whole field. And everything that you're looking at here is something that you can't see. But the thing is, this is a plasma picture. And clearly, as we were doing the spraying of the plasma dome, people were walking around with physical spray bottles and physical plasma water, and they were walking around physically and engaging and working together. And so that was done on a physical basis. So we have water as an energy parceling unit. Water is a solvent, is a universal solvent. It's what makes life possible on this planet. And we like to have clean water. But because when water comes in contact with something else, one of these energy packs shears off. Now the water is looking to engage with something. So when we wash our dishes, one of the problems we get is we end up with dirty water. And so this compensated for the loss of energy. I don't know where this energy went. All I know is that we have dirty water. So this is what happens when we wash our cars and wash our dishes and wash ourselves. And we don't want to use this water for drinking, and we don't want to use this water for watering the plants. So we'd like to have clean water. So this process needs to be reversed. Well, it can be reversed. And that's the point, you see, because the energy goes both ways. So this is the topic of discussion today, is we've discussed the X, Y, and Z axis and how it relates to rotation, polarity, and field strength. We call the rotation transmission of energy. we call the polarity transition of energy. And the field strength, we call it the transmutation. The transmutation of what? And so we had to break down the transmutation into a transformation and a transportation, because there's a similarity, you see. The transformation involves the plasma. And the plasma is positioning itself with other plasma. So there's an interaction. And this creates your dynamic plasma. All of this is representative of energy in motion. And the charge indicates the direction. And so this transmutation of energy is the gymnastics that our souls go through. They go through these various geometries and go through different dimensions. And they somehow transfer these energies through these dimensions, and it involves transmutation. But with respect to the soul, is it transformation or is it transportation? And there is a difference. And there's a connector, which is the emotions, which are part of the co-creation. We've discussed it in the past, and we'll discuss it more in the future. But today, we're going to leave it alone because we have to jump from the ranges that we have on this planet. And we see that if we can transcend the various energies, the various energy levels, and if we can get into a higher transfer state, then we can actually transfer energy faster, more efficiently. And we can do that without leaving this planet. And that's the beauty of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to discuss transformation and transportation in a lot more detail today. Because when we look at the various energy states and we see their position, we find that the small m matter state is the lowest energy state, and it totally represents physicality. And the plasma state is the highest energy transfer state. And the plasma state is the highest energy state. And between all of these energy states are transfer states. And so these represent various dimensions, and each transfer state has a different energy level. And we find that this particular diagram is from the Earth's point of view. This is the old way of looking at things from the ground up. But we have to flip it around and look at it from the top down. And the top down says, our soul is within us. Our soul is our gravitational point. And so we are alive and active because of the energy coming from our soul. That energy gets filtered down to the lowest energy state, which is a small m matter state. And in that way, we have mastered the transfer of energy at the lowest energy level, which is heat and electricity. We have advanced into nuclear physics, which is of a higher energy transfer state. We're discussing plasma physics, a higher energy state again. But somehow, some way, we have to transfer this energy from our dynamic plasma state to our physical state. And this is what we're talking about today. So there has to be some kind of transformation, this transformation of energy. And it's right here in this point between the physicality and the non-physicality, between the tangibility and the non-tangibility. This transformation of energy is utilizing the dynamic plasma. So this dynamic plasma, we sometimes misinterpret it and see it as a physical manifestation. Well, it is a transmutation of energy, but it's transformed to something that is far more dynamic than your physicality. And last week, we discussed inertia. And so what the inertia is the point of contact between the physicality and the plasma reality. And it is this inertia, this interaction of fields which allows this transformation? And is it only on this planet? So what we're talking about is universal laws of universal plasma physics. And so this applies in all cases. So in our case here, we're going to discuss the transformation of energy via inertia on this planet. So when we look at our planet and we see, well, you know what, we can climb mountains, we can go from continent to continents, we can go by boat, we can swim, we can fly in planes, and we can even take little trips up to the edge of the magnetosphere and come back down. But we stay within these dimensions, which is between the ground and the sky. And so that range of our dimensions is between the gravitational energy of the Earth and the magnetical energy of the Earth. And we participate in it. And so we do this through our bodies. So our bodies have a physicality, and they're able to use this energy somehow. So when we look at our relationship with respect to other beings on this planet, so we identify the plants as the vertical people, and we are more aligned with the animals, which are the horizontal people. But we have a unique characteristic as we can do both. We try to be vertical during the daytime and horizontal at night. And so this is all part of matter state. And we see the stacker units that we've been talking about, the 5 cups of life. And so far in this particular series, I've only discussed the 4 cups of life, but they have a relationship. And the thing is that the soul at the top is the highest energy. So by basic rule, the higher energy feeds the lower energy. And it feeds all of the lower. It doesn't discriminate, whichever lower one it is. But in this particular diagram, you can see that all of the energy states are the same. Well, this is kind of artificial. So we can take these stacker units and put them up against these ranges that we have within the dimensions of our existence. And so we can see that the top cup of life, which is the cup of soul, corresponds with the dynamic plasma state. And the bottom cup of life, which is the cup of the earth, corresponds with the lowest, small m, matter state, the lowest energy level. And all the cups in between align themselves quite nicely. And so that's kind of a nice picture, except for one small little detail. As we increase, as we transcend the various dimensions, each transfer state becomes higher and stronger by an order of magnitude. So to show a picture as if they're all the same is really not right. And we know that just in simple terms, because somehow the energy within our cells, within the cells in our body, are transformed. Energy is conveyed somehow to our cells, and our cells manifest. But the congregation of these cells, the organizing of these cells, come together in the form of a body. So this body becomes transmutated into a transportation mechanism where we have arms and legs so we can climb and walk and swim and build things. So this transmutation of energy goes to the first level, which is the transformation of the manifestation of the cells. And then it goes to the next level, which is the manifestation of the body. And so it's the ability to manifest into the body that allows us to be in a transport mechanism, as opposed to just being a pile of mush. And thank God that oil and water don't mix, otherwise we'd really be in trouble. But you see, this is where the problem comes in, is because this transmutation comes from our brain. And within our brain is where our soul lies. So just to set a context here, when we discussed our vision is within the physical and visible color spectrum. And some of you would be familiar with a pinhole camera, and they know that if the image is coming in, and let's say it's vertical, at the point of convergence in the center there, it would flip over, and so the image would be upside down. Well, we have lenses on our eyes which keep the image vertical, so we know which way is up. At least most of us do. But the thing is that behind we have a medulla, and this is the interpretation of our vision. And the intermediary is our soul. So based on our physical, shall we say, manifestation, we see what we want to see. The universal community sees what matters. They don't see the physical matter. They see the plasma matter. They have the soul vision. And so they're not seeing with eyes, they're seeing with their brain. And the brain function is a manifestation and transformation of the transmutation of energy coming through the soul. So the transformation of the brain is different from the transportation and transmutation of the body. So the medulla is part of the physicality, and the earth is our environment. And so our brain interacts with both. And so the soul manifests the earth through our eyes and conveys it to our brain, and our medulla conveys that and transmits that energy through our cells and through our body. So we always have a transmutation of energy from an energy standpoint, a visible standpoint, and a physical standpoint. And so this is what constitutes the soul vision. And so when we look at the infinity loop and we say, okay, so there's an interaction point and all of these elements are coming together. And do we take enough into account? And do we know what to take into account? And so what we find is that energy is coming from all different directions, and energy is diverging and energy is converging. And at some point in time, there's a conversion. And so we're going to discuss that more in the future. But today, we're just going to look at this inertia, this interaction point between the plasma state and the physicality, because this is how the earth is operating. We're familiar with the earth, and we see that the earth is following plasma rules, and it's interacting, both rotating around, following the equator. It is rotating around the poles, and it has a dynamism with respect to its field insofar as it creates the earth, and then it interacts with all the other planets and the sun, and somehow, some way, we're stuck in between. And so we find that the summary of how principal matter is created, we have the PM text going through the universe. These are the magnetical energy packs, and they're coming from all different angles. And when they come together and they create a force field, it's a combination of antimatter, dark matter, and matter that converts itself into a maggrav. And so as that energy keeps converging, it creates a strong gravitational field, which is your basic field interaction. So that's the progression that we go through there. So when we're looking at our point of view is different from the Earth's point of view. So our point of view is gravitational from the soul. And we say we have two souls. And we have two souls, so we have two transmutations. One is a transformation, which creates our brain, and the other is the transportation mechanism, which is the body. So both of these are two separate functions, and they interact pretty much simultaneously because of the environment that we're operating in. The question comes, what happens if we change our environment? So we're not going to answer that question today. What we are going to say is that this is a dimension transfer point between the plasma states and the physical states. And we know that the GANs and the nano have a kind of a straddling of two different fields, because the GANs is also working in the physical plane and in the emotional plane simultaneously. So we have another kind of transfer state there. Where we are rock solid, pardon the pun, is in our environment, in our small m matter state, which is physical. Okay, so that becomes easy to understand. And this is what we've been brought up with in our schooling, in our society, and everything else that's going around us. So now we are aware that we can now convert this energy not only within ourselves, and we question, when our cells are healthy, then our body is healthy. So why are we using physical things to make our cells healthy when our cells were converted in the first place through the transmutation of the dimension transfer state? The dimension transfer state converted the energy into a cell. And then the aggregation of the cells combine together to create the body. Okay, so why are we abandoning the original platform? So this has put chains on us. So we are in the process through the nanocoding is to understand the unchaining of the atoms, unchain them into a monatomic structure. Going to the next level is the GANs, which actually increases the size of the field because it increases the gaps between the energy points, and it involves a higher dimension, a higher, shall we say, a transcendence into a higher dimension. So this is a different way of converging energy. And so we're on the way from this point, small m matter state, on our way into space exploration. The rules are the same. However, the dimension transfer states change. And so we try and figure out in our two-dimensional world, our favorite game, tic-tac-toe, and trying to find out, well, who's the winner? Well, there is no winner, okay? Because it all depends on whose turn it is. And whose turn it is depends on the transmutation of energy. So what we start off with in a maggrav is our singularity. That's pretty basic. When we create a poles, we now create a point of attraction. We can get into duality. And then we can build on that and get our trinity. And then we can build on that and field strength. We can convert this basic energy into a maggrav. And this maggrav becomes much more sophisticated, higher energy. This becomes a dynamic transfer state, a very dynamic transfer state, which is drawing energy in through convergence, and it's emitting energy out through divergence. And in the process of it, it is converging in various dimensions, in the x-axis, in the y-axis, in the z-axis. And this energy is always in motion and it's not visible. And we know that, okay, because we have a brain and we have ideas, and we can give these ideas without having a hole in our head, because we can coexist, we can co-create, we can donate our ideas without suffering in terms of that. Well, where we suffer a lot is in our hearts, because when we see the hardship of this life, that hardship that we see is a physical hardship, and our brains can't comprehend this. So we have wishes and we have love, and we also have a courage to persevere, because, and we need that, because for some reason there's a resistance and it doesn't make sense. It's confounding to our brain. And this is, you know, what's keeping us, shall we say, bound to this planet in our limitation and unable to entertain the options of working with the rest of the universe. So we find that the Universal Body Enhancement Unit is a vehicle that is going to allow us to not only transition the various dimensions, but transmit our energies. And this energy can be transmitted through the transformation by a transformation, or the transmutation by a transportation. And we can do this on this planet. And we can do this in other areas as well, as we become aware of the basic rules of plasma science. And this is to keep it as simple as possible. Plasma science involves the magnetical movement of energy through attraction and repulsion. But in order to have this attraction and repulsion, it is over and above the Maggrav condition. So in other words, the Maggrav condition is a balance between the attraction and the repulsion. But the magnetical gravitational effect is over and above that. So it's the residue. So when we look at the attraction, it's gravitational, it's converging energy. When we look at the magnetical, it's the repulsion, it's the diverging of energy. Converging to what? Diverging from where? Going to where? Coming from where? So wherever it's coming from is a Maggrav, has to be. So energy is always in motion. And why we keep talking about the cups of life is because we're finding more applications for the cups of life, which for many of us are astounding. And the reason for it is because they were just brought in to eliminate the pandemic. But what is the problem with the pandemic? So the problem is that these are energy packs in motion. And so if we want to solve this problem, we have to solve it with energy in motion. And that's what the cups of life are. But when we start solving energy in motion, then we look at transmutation, right? We don't look at the physicality, we look at the transmutation of energy. So when we look at the cups of life and we discuss not how they're connected, but we discuss the fields. And this is going to be more of a challenge because we're introducing more cups, but we have to understand the basics. In this cup, we have a zinc plate and a copper coil, nano-coated copper coil. So this is the emotional cup, right? Has a magnetical field, has a gravitational field. And when we look inside what's going on, very sophisticated, lots of interaction of fields. We create the GANs, two GANs that are most important, the zinc GANs and the copper GANs. We create a CO2 GANs Now we have a star formation that allows us to bring in the amino acid, which are the building blocks of our physical life. Then we also have the water, which is what makes life possible on this planet, the universal solvent. And then, of course, we have the capability of introducing a calcium GANs, which allows us to have a spine. It also allows us to have our physicality. And it also has cross purposes where we have flexibility. So we have rigidity, we have flexibility, and then we have transmutation of energy in the physical state. And that physical state is best represented by the second cup, which is replacing the zinc plate with a copper plate. We still have the copper coil, and now we have the nano-coated copper coil. And so when we look at the fields, we know there's a magnetical field and a gravitational field. So these fields don't see the outside of the cup. They see the other dynamic fields. And so one is emotional and one is physical. And they both work the same, but they work at a different field strength. And if we're talking about the pandemic, then keep the cups apart, because there's an emotional component and a physical component that needs to be addressed. And the fields inside the cup get stronger. They do not see the physical perimeter of the glass. They go beyond that. And this is what the virus knows how to do very, very well. So the virus is an energy pack. And so we'd like to deplete the energy, or in fact, convert the energy into food. And so this is the whole essence of understanding how energy is in motion. It all boils down to these relationships. So when we look at the balance of energy, we call it a maggrav, which is a balance between the magnetical and gravitational forces. In our society, we have limitations of the scientific knowledge. We have limitations of the spiritual knowledge. We can put those two together and come up with a hybrid knowledge that is very sophisticated. It totally explains the manifestation of ourselves. It totally explains the manifestation of matter. In other words, the transmutation into the transformation of the cells and the transportation of our bodies. And all of this is the conversion of light, which is between here and there, and it's the connector to our soul. So where and from where, going where and coming from where, doesn't matter. There's a conversion, there's a connection. And so when we look at the cups of man, we see the connection between our emotional and physical construct. We say the emotional is higher energy, so it's the gravitational taker. The physical is the lower energy, so it's the magnetical giver. And the two together create a magnetical field, and then they create a gravitational field. Then we introduce the cup of the soul, and we see that each cup has a magnetical gravitational field and a soul. And the three cups together have a soul and an interaction, a magnetical gravitational interaction as well. And then we added last week the cup of inertia, which is a nano-coated copper coil, and the second nano-coated copper coil, and a nano-coated copper plate. And that cup also had a magnetical field and also had a gravitational field. We added that to the previous three cups, and it too creates a soul and an interaction with the other three cups. So when we look at the stacker unit, and in this particular class, we've only discussed the first four. So there's a fifth one to discuss, and then there's another cup of the universe that's coming down, and we need to discuss that as well in future classes. So we just need to organize things a little bit better. we have a periodic table of elements, and these are physical. So they have manifest themselves into a physical reality. And we're going to change a few things around. We're going to take the left two columns and move them over to the right. Okay, because we have two very serious components involved there, the magnesium and the calcium. Magnesium very much related to the vertical people, calcium very much related to the horizontal people. However, both have both. And so when we add this to our regular amino acid structure, which involves hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, and then we find that we've got a little problem with hydrogen. We don't know exactly where it belongs. So we have a second place there on the other side of the helium. And then we also have the copper and the zinc. And so we start to see that there's a relationship on a left side and a right side, and all of these elements coming together. And so this gives us a little foundation to build on. And what we're going to build on is to understand, when someone asks you, tell them plasma is a kind of energy state. And all of these energy states work together. All things are in combination. And that's where the infinity loop comes from. But there's a magnetical pushing and a gravitational pulling, and they push and pull back and forth until they get a balance. And then if there's anything left over, that becomes the residue. And that's how energy keeps moving. So the thing about it in the plasma science is that there's another element, and that is the ethics. And we've broken through a lot of barriers, like the limitation of the speed of light. And the reason for that is because once we get into ethics, that involves morality, compassion, and courage. All of these come from the transmutation of plasma reality. And the combination of these in a star formation are the essence of creation. So creation is very, very much tied into the ethos of the universe. And for some reason, we're having trouble understanding that. So what we have is a universal body enhancement unit, which shows us how to convert plasma. And in the process of this plasma conversion, we restore the emotional and physical vitality. And this is totally different from physical reparation or emotional reparation. We're talking about vitality, the original transmutation. And so when we pile up the list of these barriers that we break down, let's do a reality check. Let's understand. We talked about our soul positioning, and we've seen that our soul positioning is positioned somehow between the sun and the earth, because the sun has a soul and the earth has a soul, and there's an interaction there. But we have the soul of man and the soul of the body, and so that we have to change up. And we find the soul of the body has an emotion, which is representative of the GANs. Our bodies are made of GANs, but the soul of the man has a mind, which is in our brain. But our brain is physical, and our body is physical. So what's going on there? Well, it's not the same physicality. It's not the same. The brain is a transmutation of energy, and it transforms it into a different dimension. And then the transmutation of energy is transformed into another dimension, the body, the transportation. And we find that the governor is the soul. So the soul of the body governs the body, and the soul of the man governs the brain. But the soul of the man is of a higher energy strength. And so there is an interaction with the environment of the sun and the earth. And so that's where the inertia comes in. So there's some kind of dimension transference that is involving this inertia and transmutating energy, where we have our brain that operates at a different dimension from our body. And this becomes very important because the DNA comes after the creation of the amino acid. And the DNA seems to have a problem in our society. And it's kind of hardwired to be in a self-serving state. That's kind of important if you want to maintain your MAGRA, but do you have to do it at the extent? This hardwiring is not like a printed circuit board. This is kind of unprinted. But what it is driven from the physical side. I hope you can still hear me. I have a storm going on outside.
Yeah, we hear you.
This DNA is driven from a physical side. And we all know that from a physical side, we can clearly see a form artifact. And so this hard wiring, if you will, it's not really hard wiring, it's just it's a form artifact in its physicality. But the DNA didn't come from the physicality. The DNA is a form artifact of a plasma reality. And in other words, when we look at how we are created, we are a manifestation of the dynamic transfer state. And it is from the dynamic transfer state that we end up with the physical destination state. Our body is the physical destination state. Our brain is the dynamic transfer state. And all these dimension transfer states are coming from the plasma soul feeding, where the higher feeds the weaker. But it's a soul feeding and it's a plasma feeding. So when we look at the plasma manifestation of the cups of life, we find that the field energies coming from cup 1, 2, and 3, which are the cup of soul, the cup of emotion, and the cup of physicality, they are all in a plasma state. They are interacting with the dynamic plasma state. When we transform into the physicality via inertia, then we get into the physical state. And so this is what happens when we have the physical manifestation. We get into the physical plasma physics, if you will. So the transmutation of energy coming from the plasma state into the physical state goes through these two stages. One is the transformation into our brain. The other is the transportation, which is our body. Both are transportation systems. It's just that one is physical and one is mental, and they're different. And so this is the new reality. Our perception of reality is the manifestation. And what does it mean by manifestation? So whatever reality is the manifestation. And the manifestation comes from when two fields come together to form another. And as these fields form another, that formation of the other is the manifestation. And it's the plasma feeding which leads to the manifestation. So therefore, this manifestation may be non-tangible or tangible, non-visible or visible, plasmatic or physical. We can say either dark matter or light matter. But the point is that there is a plasmatic reality and there is a physical reality. And whichever reality it is a manifestation, and that manifestation is a form artifact. And in the future, we're going to get more into discussing how the emotions of presence is a form artifact also of energy and motion. But we have a limitation, and limitation is understanding these dimension transfer states. And now we see that there is a dynamic transfer state between the plasma reality and the physical reality. And to understand that our transmutation of energy is from the top down, not from the bottom up. Key point, and that's the key point of today's presentation. So when you do your soul meditation, where's that energy coming from? So you find that that is the dynamic plasma that is available copiously in the universe. So open to that, yield to that power and allow it to happen so that you can receive all the energy that you need whenever you need it. And we're going to need a lot of energy to overcome the resistance, because the reason there is a resistance is because they refuse to provide the pattern. So you provide the pattern and you get the energy. And that's the message. And we're just the messengers. We're just the messengers of peace and friendship. And that's what we're trying to bring to this planet. And so we understand that the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, with respect to plasma science, we put it in public domain. Okay, because our entry into space is mandatory. The universal community is waiting, but they will not allow us until we establish world peace. So sign the World Peace Treaty with a pen and with your heart and with your soul, and understand it. If we want to bring physical and emotional harmony to this planet, then we need to find out the truth. And sometimes the truth is not what you find, but you find the lies. And that's what happens to us as knowledge seekers. And today we found the limitation. We found the limitation in the transmutation of energy and not understanding how we go through these various dimensions. So can we become the difference makers? When we transcend the dimensions of the ranges on this planet, and learn how to do that and become very skillful, then we can do the same thing in space. There's a universal language and it's dynamic, and it's within us and it's throughout the universe. Plasma science needs to be delivered in exchange for peace on Earth. That's the lesson, end of the lesson. Thank you all very much for participating, and over to you, Mark.
Well, thank you again, Alex, for being here and for adding to the knowledge and to encourage us to keep going deeper and understanding more about this technology. I know Mr. Keshe mentioned in the last workshop that what he was teaching us was delicate, simple, but takes a lot of understanding, or takes understanding. So we keep trying to open this understanding up, and we want to thank you for bringing the knowledge as you understand it and share with the rest of the community. We appreciate your presence. There was a question in the chat from Danilo, and it says, I have a question. So this is maybe not exclusively for you, Alex, but it says, I have a question for all the knowledge seekers. Maybe you can pull up that first foil that you used with the Neutron, perhaps. And it says, as the electron, and feel free to open your microphone, Danilo, as the electron is inside the neutron before it opens up, do we have our soul of physicality inside the soul of the man? I know the soul of physicality sort of enticed the soul of the man to come in, and then the soul of the man, I think, built its own cage for itself. And so,
if I can add to my question.
Oh, please, that's what I was hoping you would do.
I would ask the same thing, you know, before our life drop dead. No, sorry. Before our life begins, we have our soul. but maybe we had our soul of physicality inside the soul of man before we manifest into physicality, you know?
Oh, yes, that does make some sense. You mean we brought the physicality here with us and then it manifested? Is that what you're inferring? But what about the sperm and the egg?
Hello, Danilo. So we have a new option on the table, you see, because our conventional understanding based on our old physics and our spiritual training is that our soul is basically singular, it's on its own. And the soul of the body is manifested through transmutation, through the inertia of the interaction of the field forces of this planet. And the present science says, you know, if we leave here, we have to leave the soul of the body behind. The plasma science is throwing a new option in, is allowing the two to go together. And this becomes very important in understanding transportation. So we understand transportation on this planet because we have a body. And to facilitate the movement of our body, we have vehicles. And these vehicles are very physical. So we go inside the vehicles to travel. So we can do this within a limitation. And those limitations have to do with the limitation of, shall we say, the speed of light. If we transcend that and go into higher elevations, then we can not depend on the transportation of our physicality so much, but the transformation of our physicality, if you will. So we have an opportunity to travel in both dimensions. This is new. This is, well, when we say new, it's, you know, maybe new to us. It's not new to this planet because history shows that it was done many, many times in the past. It all depends on which history book you look at and how you interpret that. But, you know, this is why terminology is so important. So when we look at, you know, our history, we have to understand that our ancestors weren't, you know, cave-dwelling dummies. They were extremely intelligent, and somehow that knowledge either failed to be transferred or was stopped. But it stopped in its physicality, and that's the key. The transmutation of energy in a plasmatic reality transcends all of those limitations. So this is why the cups of life are enhancing our capability by one, bringing us awareness, and two, showing us what's possible. So when we talk about it, it's limiting. When we apply our knowledge, then we discover things. And this is the beauty. This is the beauty of why we do the spraying of the plasma dome, because we now have a physical interaction with our plasmatic desires. And so we see the plasmatic manifestation of our plasmatic desires via physical interaction. This is new with respect to our society, and that is the answer to your question. Thanks, Danilo.
Hi, this is Oza. May I add to your explanation, Alex?
Welcome, Azar. Great to see you.
Daniela, if you go back to Mr. Kesh's Facebook, and if you look at everything, you see we have principal matter, which is antimatter, which is the same thing as the soul. Okay, so everything has the same thing. So if the Earth has this, and the universe, look at this solar system in our universe, which is like a speck of dust in that universe. So the central principal matter of that universe has a saying into what's going on in our principal matter in our universe, and has a saying in the principal matter of the earth, and has a saying in the principal matter of the soul of the man, which is the soul of the man. So when a sperm, say your parents created you, so why that a sperm that went to the egg and could penetrate the egg, there is only one sperm in all the sperm that your father created could penetrate to that egg. Why? Because if we go back to how everything is so interconnected, and the strength of everything has to do with interconnection of all the principal matter, all the interaction of everything. So according to what is your ancestral line and what was the strength of them and what they have done and what was all about, that has to create one strength. The totality of it has to bring one strength that has to create you. It couldn't be any other way. The same way, when you create your own children, it has to be with the strength that it balances out the rest of the strengths of all principal matter in totality that goes back to the creator. So that's why when you talk about as if your physicality was inside like an electron was inside the neutron, in totality, if you look at it, of course, you can look at it that way. But in reality, everything is in that way, is interconnection of everything that we are. There's no separation. Because we see separation, but there's no separation. Even at this moment, this planet is going through all the changes according to what's not only happening here, not only what is happening in each electron, not only is happening in yourself, not only is happening in your neighbor, not only is happening in a tree, but also what's happening in the central principal matter of the cosmos, the universe, and everything else, all the way to the creator. So that's why every single action or thought, everything we have is so important. We think it's not important, but it's very important. But it doesn't mean you are the center of the universe, but it means every single thing we do, it can create. That's why Mr. Kai says one person, if it has their strength, it can lift the whole humanity up to a different level. I mean, that was my understanding. I hope it helps.
Hello everybody. Hello, Mr. Alex. I would like to ask you, what is the difference between conversion and transmutation? And I give you one example. For example, when I meditate, I travel at the soul level, and I'd like to understand what kind of operation I am doing, conversion, transmutation, at the soul level, not at the physicality level. I'm not able to transport my physicality yet. I just travel at the soul level. You know, I am from Indian origin also. I am multinational. And we Indian, we have a big tour, but not only Indian. We are all equal on this earth, but in our tradition, it's normal to do this in our meditation. At this instance, you can travel and you can see everything, and you can hear, you are present there, yes, but not with physicality. At the soul level, can you explain what, if we can understand this process? Thank you very much, and thank you for your lovely teaching, which inspire me all the time. Thank you. Much love to you.
Thank you very much, Salomia. So conversion and transmutation are basically the same thing. It's a point of, shall we say, it's a crossover point. In extreme cases, we would call that crossing over the Bardo being the crossover point. On this planet, the boundary of a country is kind of the crossover point. But in the plasma science, we don't have the limitations. These limitations are kind of artificial constructs. And this artificial construct of separating the soul via meditation from the soul through the body is also an artificial construct. The body cannot operate without the soul. The body operates always with the soul. It's not where you have to stop and focus and say, okay, well, now I'm going to look after my body. So this is, you know, I don't want to be controversial here, but, you know, this is one of the reasons I'm not a fan of yoga, because yoga wants to dominate the body. We have trillions of cells in our body. We don't have the time or the skill to organize trillions of cells. So thank God we defer that to our soul of the body. It looks after everything. And, you know, if our environment would be better, then we wouldn't have as many problems. But one of the reasons we do have these problems is because of a disconnect. Excuse me. So we have a disconnect between our physicality and our soul. And this is willful. And it doesn't make sense. And this is where the problem starts in the first place. When you're 99.86% certain that the plasma science can do what it says, what's the problem? You know, when you have a solution to the problem, then what's the problem? Well, the problem is you don't want to adopt a solution. That's what the problem is. And the reason you don't want to adopt a solution is because we're bound in the physicality. So this is not something that you need to do consciously. You do this unconsciously all the time, 24 hours, 7 days a week, not a problem. But where the soul meditation really comes in is that it gives you an opportunity to reflect and to see that we are not exhibiting enough confidence in our plasma reality. And, you know, rightly so. We get together for a few classes, and had a beautiful class in Brazil, had a beautiful class on Thursday. We're having a great time today. But when you compare it to the 24-hour-a-day onslaught of misinformation and the limitation, and you say, well, you know, there's no balance there. It's overly balanced on the physicality. And then we say, well, you know, we have a problem with our DNA. Yeah, we have a problem with our DNA, because we're forgetting that the DNA doesn't come from the physicality. The DNA comes from the amino acid, which comes from the environment. And then it's manifest from the RNA. So, you know, we're approaching an energy state problem from our physical state. That's got to stop. And it all boils down to confidence, having confidence in our existence. And why wouldn't you have confidence in your existence? Did you need to have confidence when you were born? Did you need to meditate when you were born? Did you do anything physically to be born? I don't think so. So why are we so preoccupied with what are we going to do physically? So what we do physically is we spray the cup of life to create this plasma dome. Why? To balance off the physical overcommitment that we have. That's why. And the participation of doing that is motivated by your soul. You know, look at it. You're walking down the street spraying water, and someone looks at you and they don't understand what you're doing. Looks hilarious. But if you know what you're doing, and if your intention is there, and of course your intention is there, because that's, you know, you made it happen. And you made it happen because you have the confidence, and you should have the confidence, because that confidence is resting on 99.86% confidence factor. Universally, right across the board. So we don't need to stop and do the meditation. You know, we can stop and do the meditation, but we do that all the time because we think about our future, we think about our children, we think about our families, we think about our society. You know, I have to think about what am I going to talk about at these classes. I have to have respect for all the students here. I have to do something to give some substance. And why do I have to do that? What's my motivation? And why do I feel the pressure to do that? So this is the essence. We're all here. Oh, there's 50 of us here. Why are we here? And we're here every week. Why are we here? All right, because we have seen the breakdown and the failure of our physicality. It's not working. It's not working. You want proof? It's not working. 20 months, it's not working. Okay, if it's not working, stop doing it. That's all. But they don't want to stop. So, can we stop a physical conversion with another physical conversion? You know what that's called? That's called war. We don't need that. That has proven not to work. What we need is peace. And how do we do that? You know, we say, go along to get along. Hey, you know, that's fine. That's fine. And for 40 years, I did that. Okay. Fortunately, I never sold my soul out, which I'm really grateful for, because your soul really looks out for you. However, go along to get along. It's all right. No one knows. Sweep it under the carpet. Let's try something different. Why don't we try and enhance others? Try it. It should be easy enough, right? Well, not easy at all. And why is that? Because we have an overcommitment to our physicality and a complete denial of our soul origin. We need to stop that. We need to start moving and understand that we come from our soul. I mean, we have a brain. We need to use the brain. They say, you know, we only use 15% of our brain. Really? If you only use 15% of the brain, then the other 85% will atrophy. Then you'll be a pea brain. And we're not pea brains. We know that something's wrong. And maybe we don't understand it. And that's why we go to these classes. And that's why we teach. But the thing is, we see the results. And when we see the results, that gives us the encouragement. And now we know that we can do even more. Well, why do we want to do more? Well, let's ask the question, why are we always wanting to do less? Why do we want to do less? So, you know, you want to strive to do less? You know, in my community, I have people who strive to be on disability pension. Why would you strive to be on disability pension? Because that way you don't have to do anything. And when you don't do anything, then you don't make mistakes. So I figured out, why do I make so many mistakes? Because I do so many things. Okay, so, you know, the other day I decided to do nothing. Well, guess what? That was a mistake. You know, you can't win. Sounds like a Rodney Dangerfield presentation. But the thing is, our soul looks out for us. Why? Because the soul is connected to the rest of the universe and it transcends the limitations of the physicality. Oh, yeah, the soul is your friend. Why? Because it's you. If you're not your friend, then we really got problems. But this is a matter of point of view. We are in heaven. This earth is heaven. It just needs respect. It's not that it needs respect, it deserves respect. It's just we're not giving it the respect. How can we respect the earth when we don't respect ourselves? What crosses your mind when you sign up to be a soldier of fortune and you decide who lives and who dies? And you decide who lives and who dies, who decides if you live or you die? Why, what rule is it that says you decide as opposed to the other decide? Well, in that rule is, doesn't matter how much money you have, how much power you have, you don't have the biggest gun. And participating in that is a losing proposition. It follows the law of diminishing returns. Why do we strive to do less? Let's strive to do more. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with having a beautiful, peaceful life? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with being happy? What is wrong with dancing? What is wrong with playing music? We got to stop the overcommitment to our physicality and understand that our souls are guiding us and they will never let us down. And the universal community operates by the same rules. And they don't see the physicality. They don't talk to physicality. They see the light from your soul. They see the energy from your soul. You can do the same thing. This is one of my biggest problems. When I talk to someone, they're lying to me, and I think, why are they lying to me? And I know that they're lying, and now I have to pretend that I don't know that they're lying. So now I'm feeling the pressure because they're lying. No. You know what? You're lying. Guess what? You're alone. Enjoy yourself. I'm leaving. Come together, build a new future, because the history shows the way we've been doing it is not working, short-sighted, and brings a lot of misery. And in the end, you cannot hurt someone without hurting yourself. That is a rule. So all the arguments are defeated. Doesn't make any sense. It's time to look to a brighter future. And we are all knowledge seekers. And now we are all improving our skills in being able to deliver. Thanks
Alex,
for your question, Salamia. Hi, Jolan.
hi everyone. Hi Alex.
Thank you.
You are grounded. You cannot live.
We need you here, he's saying.
No, he just said, okay, I'm leaving. No, you cannot. You are grounded.
Hi, Jalal. I'd like to interact with Mr. Alex and you, because during my meditation, first meditation of my life, I had a vision of, but I was in alpha state, not in delta or theta. Just after a few seconds, I was receiving reiju from my master, spiritual master, and I have seen an electron violet anti-clock moving, and after sometimes he start to move in clockwise, in the direction of clockwise, and I was wondering, what is this? What is this sign? And after I have seen the same entity, violet, flying using the magnetic fields, the how do you call in English? Not fields, but this horizontal is like fields. Anyway, you understand me. And this was a sign that I have to study the link between spirituality and physics, plasma science. And I said to my master, I need to understand what happened, from where we receive this energy at the soul level, and we connect with our self, how we do. And he said, don't worry, you don't need to understand. I said, yes, I need to understand, and I will do. And you came, and Mr. Kesh came, and Jalal came, and thank you very much, Jalal, because you was my guide. You guided me here in North America, in Brazil, everywhere. You guided me. And I learned very much from you, Jalal, and from Mr. Alex, and thank you very much. And when Mr. Kesh came, he was like a wonder on my life, because he answered to all the questions. But first time I met Jalal and Mr. Alex, and after I met our beloved Mr. Kesh. So it's essential to understand our essence, because if you'll understand our essence, you'll understand the universe. We are the universe. When we start to learn about all this nanotechnology, about nanostate, GAN state, it is important to understand the construction of the universe, because in the universe we have all these layers, like in like nano layers and GANs. Between all these monoatomic entities, we have gapes, and this space is not empty, is like black holes. Mr. Kesh just teach us. So is principal matter, is antimatter, and this energy is principal, is of many order of magnitude bigger than our matter state energy. So when we absorb this energy, we feed our soul with such a powerful energy. We have to be aware of our strength, intensity of our field force, of our soul of man, I mean, and also soul of physicality. We are like God. We are like creators. We can create. So this is a message that we are co-creator on this earth, because we are created at the soul level from divine race, from the mother Mitra and from the creator. And it's important for all the humanity to understand that we are a unique soul of this planet. Doesn't matter of our ethnicity, of our social status and so on, of our physicality, because the soul of man is the same entity. And when somebody suffer, all humanity will suffer at the soul level, is a soul of our co-creator, which is Mitra. Mitra gives us love at the soul level, and without love we can have peace. If we can love our brothers and sisters, we can be in peace. And if we are not in peace, we are not healthy. Planet need to be healed, and can be healed by love and one word, peace. We can achieve Magrav without love. Love means balance between gravitational and magnetic. And thank you for listening me. I needed to share with you because I love you, all of you. I love, and I feel very, very happy being with you here every Sunday. And I am with you at the soul level all time. So we don't need to meditate to be with each other and feel each other. We can feel each other every time. When we have a thought on our mind, this thought reach all the souls at once, because our reality is at once. We don't have difference between future and past. Everything is at once. In Hindi, we have the same word for yesterday and tomorrow. Is not a difference between tomorrow and is the same reality and yesterday. We are present, and this is important, to be present all the time, to be present at the soul level. And we can have a lot of knowledge if we are present. We receive the knowledge directly from the bio-internet of the universe at the soul level. Sometimes it's not necessary to use too much the logics, because with the intuition we can receive more. All these scientists use the logics, and they use a lot of money just to tell us a lot of lies. They are a big Pinocchio, telling us lies, is that the universe is like a hologram. What is this? And many, and we have to have the courage, because this is means ethics, to tell the truth and to change the mentality of all these scientists, which are using only one part of our brain, the logics. We have to use the intuition. Without intuition, we can see the truth. Harmony and equilibrium between the two parts of our brain can conduce us to the truth. So science and spirituality and theology is only one entity. And Mother Mitra came on the earth to teach us that we have only one theology, one religion. Doesn't matter of the name. It's only one spirituality. So it's not important to speak about religion, because a religion is only one. And science could be understood with the help of theology, with the help of spirituality. Otherwise, we just invent many systems. We just create many constructs, because science is a construct of our mind. So we need more wisdom and more love for our Creator in order to understand what is our source, our origin, what we are in this universe, and what is the relation between the big universe and the small universe. This small universe, which is a microcosmos, human being, has to make a travel inside himself to find the Creator, to find the cup of the Creator. On Thursday, Mr. Kesh talked about the cup of the universe, the 6th cup, but we have 7 cups of the universe. And this 7th cup we will find in ourselves, because this travel to meet all these 7 cups of the universe is a travel within us, not outside, because the universe is in our side, inside, in interior. So we are, our consciousness is expanded at the totality, and we can be totality at the soul level. And we are also individuality at the physical level. So we are both. And if we'll travel inside and outside, is the same. Maybe when I am an astral a traveler. Maybe when I am traveling outside, I am traveling inside. Galaxies are in my body, and universes are in my body. Sometimes I see Venus.
So
I see
are you
Mars.
the orange?
Yes.
Or are you the cup?
I am both. I learned from you, Jalal. Thank you very much, because you inspired me so much. If you allowed me, maybe I use your classes also in my classes, if you allowed me, because I like what you start in Brazilian team is lovely.
You know, there's something called money.
Yes, I will give you all my money. You know that I never earn money from myself. I just give to all friends and family and my dogs.
My dear,
Maybe 1% I leave for me from my salary.
My dear, you know what?
Yes.
You speak about this, and today something occupied my mind all the day. You know what? You know what happened here? there is a trillions of souls which need to go out of this soup of the fields. You know, like a lot of fishes in the sea, and it is too much that everyone see someone who can able to fly out of the sea. Everyone try to attach to it, give it whatever he wants. And this is the play which the human absolutely, he was in a way deceived. You know, like Mr. Kai said, a child in a candy shop, the candies
Yes.
look very beautiful all over the place. For whom? For this child to take this candy and eat it and go out with it, out of the shop. But it happens, you know, every candy this child consume, he stuck more and more because he need to give from his soul. For that, it is very difficult, really. Really, it's very difficult. More you eat, more you consume these energies, more you are heavier and you cannot live.
Yes, you are right. Every day I'm eating salads because I enjoy it too much. Or sometimes when I don't eat salads, I eat only fruits because I don't combine both of them. But I interact with them, and sometimes I said, okay, I'm vegetarian, but still these vegetables can suffer when I eat them.
Who balance the fields? Who balance the books?
Yeah. Yes, you are right. In the morning, I went to the sun and I have seen all the colors of my chakras in the sun, and I didn't eat all the day because I didn't need to eat.
But now you are 200. You start with 1,000.
No, I
Not-
am full
No.
no, I am never hungry.
No. You didn't understand what I'm saying. You missed what I'm saying. In the soul level, you start with 1,000, and it's not today, and it's not yesterday. Look,
When you are satisfied, Jalal, you don't need even to eat because you feed your soul with plasma. And I feed with studying. Today I study all the day. Usually I study about plasma science. I study what Mr. Alex taught and Mr. Kesh. Usually I listen only once. But now, because I am myself, I have a noble mission to teach my team from Romania and other friends from Facebook, which are coming in the classes. So I have to be more careful to all details. So I listen again to have a good interpretation.
But this is a tools, my dear.
Yeah.
Jalal, can I add something?
Yes.
We are eating in order to add to the soul, to the strength of the soul. Is it right?
No.
We are no. Can you explain a little bit, please?
Okay. In reality, you are stealing, and they are stealing from you. You didn't take a given energy. And given energy, you do not see, you do not touch. There is no color, there is no name. There is no tangibility for this. So tell me, you eat, you drink, you you do a lot of things. For what? To take their energy. Yes, you take their energy in the physical manner and emotional manner, but the souls of this, what you are taking, who give them in this order? It's your soul, balancing all the time, balancing the fields. You find out in the time you didn't achieve anything. You think you achieved in physicality and emotion, but in essence, you paid from the soul level. You know why? This question came to me in the morning by my wife. We are sitting in the breakfast and said, you know, you should pray in the body. What that do to the, let's say, to the virus? Do it kill it? And you know, I ask the same question. You spray this water of plasma when there is a virus. What will happen? What do you think is happening?
I think they will create a balance.
In order of what? Who give who take from who?
I think the plasma water takes from the virus.
Take from the virus?
Yeah.
What it take from the virus?
The energy, the plasma.
Yeah, and what it give it? What it takes must give.
Sorry, may I interact with you? There are two ways of dealing with the virus: is depleting the energy and converting in food. So
In which aspect? Wait. Okay, this is a talk, but now we are speaking science. In which aspect? And why? And who says so?
yeah, we can have an explanation that we can transmute the energy at a superior level and at inferior level. When you in this way you create, you manifest. It's at your soul level, your intention. So without your intention, plasma will not do anything, because it's linked with your soul, with your emotion, and with your desire. Our emotions are entangled with the emotion of the universe. And these packages of energy from the universe, which are RNA, this virus at the RNA level, he's entangled with our energy from the soul and from our DNA even.
He's not in the level of our soul, but he's mimicking. It is only a mimic.
He has also a soul. So the soul of the virus is related with our soul interacting, because everything is in interaction. Separation is an illusion on this universe, unicos. Everything is linked, correlated, interacting. So the soul of the virus is interacting with our soul. And if our soul of man or soul of physicality is strong, it will convert it in food. So it will, in our DNA, it will not create something which is damaging our body. It will create micronutrients like mineral and vitamins, which are essential for our body. You can give these commands, you put this intention, and he will feed you the virus. So this is my feeling, and I not only feeling, but my knowledge from you and Mr. Alex.
It's okay. Well,
can you add more?
Every day, of course, every day when we speak in the plasma and when we learn in the plasma, we add all the time. And the principle, it is not forcing. You are not converting anything. You are allowing this soul to give and take. When you work with the plasma, it's first, it's a giver. You know why? Because it have your emotion in it. Mr. Cash, first, when he produced this knowledge, he said, we really be very careful when you work with this science. If you work in love, first it will come to you. If you work in to have, the first thing it will take from you, because you are working in the level of the plasma. It's higher than the matter state. It's higher than the emotion itself. It is the, the energy which is work with the soul. So if this virus coming from the matter state, it is very, very low. If this virus comes from the emotion level, even that, it is very, very low comparing to the principle. So that's why the plasma is covering and allowing this virus to show the beauty. It is energy, but this energy do not know how to behave. It's like a child coming inside a shop. He wants to have everything, and he can have everything because no one can stop him. So working with the plasma, it's allowing for this entity to become, take out the surplus energy, because the energy of the plasma is higher. Like a human, and he is walking with elephant. How come a human he can drive an elephant? And this is also have a very strong body and power. But how? Because the human, he knows, he have the knowledge from both the vertical and the horizontal people. He gathered not a singularity, not a mono energy like the animals. The animals is mono energy. That's why, they are going in one direction. What is lead them to work in this soup of energy, it is one direction. The emotion side, it's not yet developed. But the beauty with the human, they develop this emotion side very strong, that they received more energy because the emotion side is very active, working with the physicality. That's why he received more more levels in this aspect, not like the animals or the plants or the fishes or any other entities. And he creates something which the universe would like to have, to learn, and this is love and care. And he know how to work with and how to walk with it. Not only work with it, or even walk with it. So every entity here on Earth would like to give its energy to you to take it to a higher level. That's why they show up to you in different colors and different taste and different smells. But are you capable to take all these souls with you? But you are taking it and you don't know. You take the physicality and the emotion. And this part it takes from your soul, because the soul must balance the books. Start work with this cup. This is very important, at least to stop this loss of energy in this aspect, and then convert what you have to the energy level of all these entities. The same thing. They think they can survive and go out of the sea, but no way. Only with this knowledge, all the entities can come out of this drowning in this sea. This soup of fields, it have to understand, and you will find it all over the places. So are you going another shop? You've done it once, and this is Earth. You need to go out of this shop. Thank you.
Alex, did you ever consider that the guy who doesn't want to work, maybe he's not from this planet, and he was such in a hurry because he said, the last few planets I've been on, I've never worked. So maybe he didn't get the full briefing. He wanted to enjoy the matter state so much he decided to come in, but then he wasn't briefed on the working end of it. So he's finding a way not to work. As Mr. Kesh said, we're not going to work to live anymore. We're going to live to serve. And maybe that's what's coming up. I was just thinking about that. And another point, we know this technology doesn't kill or harm anything, Mr. Kesh said. So as with the virus, we're draining its energy. I was just equating it to sort of like when you trim a bush. Maybe it's looking pretty wild and the sticks are all over. You're just trimming it up, so to speak, and you're allowing it to show more of its beauty. And the virus is still there, but it's just more behaved now. It was too aggressive. It was too strong. It was too domineering. So we've just drain some of its energy, but it's allowed to live. And another thing I was thinking about was this idea of the splitting of the neutron. I only thought it was for engineered systems like nuclear power plants or other things. It's not something we really talk about in mixed company too much, about splitting the neutron, I guess, unless you're in the scientific field. But all day long and regularly and rapidly, our bodies are splitting neutrons. They're converting, they're transporting, and they're transmuting energies. So to come to this understanding that your body is sort of a low power nuclear reactor. Now, my question is, do emotions also have neutrons? We talk about splitting elements or transmuting elements. Do the emotions contain neutrons? And what happens when you split them? Do you manifest more of the same emotion? Like if you had good thoughts and you could multiply that? It was just a question that came up, if anyone would like to put in their thinking or thoughts or understanding.
So may I address that, Mark?
Sure.
So many thoughts have crossed the table here. So let's be specific about what we talked about today, or what I talked about today, and why I brought the subject up is because our interaction with our environment is physical dominant, and so our viewpoint is physical dominant, whereas the dominance is soul dominant, and it's automatic. So it's not something that we have to do. To be physical dominant is a contrived condition, and this is promoted through our society because of the limitations with respect to the bounty that's on this planet, where a small percentage controls the vast percentage of wealth on this planet, and that wealth is in a physical state, you see. So this is not a plasmatic wealth, this is a physical wealth. And because the physical wealth is providing a certain kind of satisfaction, a physical satisfaction, and that seems to be enough. So one of the questions had to do with the people who don't want to work. This is a matter of survival for them, because if you get in a situation where the environment that you're working in is not very good, so as a matter of self-preservation, you want to get out of that environment. But you have to have another environment to be able to go into. And then for self-preservation, one of the best environments in our area here is to go on welfare. And so that's fulfilling the physical demands, if you will. But overall, it's playing the system, but it's not contributing anything. It wouldn't be so bad, I think, if they were playing the system and then going through personal development, education and things like that. But invariably they don't, because that's the mindset. The mindset is something for nothing. And why not? I mean, that's how the banks do it, right? That's how the banks earn money. They earn money from nothing. So this seems to be generally accepted, and it's very physical. And that's the problem right then and there. So because we're successful at being physical, we want to maintain that. And so that's where the misinterpretation of the definition of inertia comes in, until there's an action brought upon it, it will continue to do the same thing. So if we continue to lie, cheat, and steal in our society, then the chances are tomorrow we're going to continue to lie, cheat, and steal. And because this is a physical bound thing, then the physical inertia has to change that. Well, the physical inertia can't change that because the physical inertia didn't cause that. The plasmatic inertia caused that. And it's not the plasmatic inertia. The inertia is the interaction of the plasmatic and the physical field forces. But when we're talking about manifestation, the plasmatic manifestation has to come first. The physical manifestation may follow, not necessarily may follow. And so in our reality, we see what has followed, and we discount what we don't see and all the other stuff in the background. So with respect to the pursuit of science, when I got involved with this subject, I just wanted to find a cure for my wife's cancer. That's all I wanted, because the cure for my wife's cancer would cure my financial distress. So I found it, and within 8 weeks, she was well. In the process, I lost my own health, but within 3 weeks, I got my health back. And so I wanted to find out more about that. Well, I wanted to find out about health. I didn't want to find out about science. I didn't want to find out about the creation of the universe. I didn't, I don't care about that. Just tell me how to get rid of the cancer. Let me get back to my, go along and do a long ways, And so then I found out that there's a whole lot of universe to go on there. But the key point was that there was a solid explanation. And one of the pillars of understanding this was to kill the ego. And one of the ways to do that is to understand how limiting it is when you say I, or me, or I'm going to do this, or this is my domain, if you will. And so what that does is it creates fences. It creates barriers. And so the whole purpose of barriers in a plasma field is to differentiate the MagRav plasmatic fields. But the boundary of the MagRav field goes beyond the boundary of the MagRav field. In other words, the dynamic plasma is free to interact with others, but it's selective. And the selection is based on, if you will, the flavor of the PM ticks. And so this is a good thing. But when you understand that, then you understand how racism is a huge problem, because it's only natural for fields to come together based on their environment. But now we find out through the plasma science that by changing the environment, we would also change other things. And so the whole concept of racism evaporates. And the thing about it is that in some societies, white supremacy rules. But did you know in other societies, Black supremacy rules? And so each society has its own. And so you can quite honestly look at all the societies around the planet, and you find pockets within that society that are racist. That's all there is to it. So, we have a caste system in India. So they are not racist to so much to other races. They're racist within their own community. And so, I am entitled, and you're garbage. So this is a different kind of racism. But nevertheless, what it means is that we're all equal, but some are more equal than others. And this is a man-made physical construct. It's this physical construct that I try to delineate today to understand the difference between the physical construct and the plasmatic construct. So the plasmatic construct doesn't have this limitation. This limitation, the moment we say, this is me, or this is mine, then I have to put a fence around it. And as soon as I put a fence around it, that consumes space. So if each one of us puts a fence around us, then there's no interaction. So then we need more space. And then when we run into the problem where we don't have enough to provide physically, then we look at our neighbor and we say, well, you seem to have enough and we don't have enough, so we want some. And that's the beginning of the conflict and the war, which is on a physical level. So now we can eliminate that impetus by being able to provide the things that we need. However, it is this physical interaction with our environment that is hardwiring our DNA. And so the DNA is totally responsive to the environment. And so it's kind of innocent in its regard that way. And if we could change the environment, then we can change the hardwiring. But the point is that this is a unique characteristic of driving down energy levels, because the one huge difference that we have in the lowest energy level is a delay in consequences, which we don't have in the higher energy levels. And it is the abuse of this delay in consequences that's the problem. So if we can transcend into the higher dimensions and operate on those dimensions, then we eliminate this delay in consequences. And so we automatically eliminate the environment that is conducive to this kind of misconduct. But there are two factors in this misconduct, and they're both dealing with loosh harvesting. So what loosh harvesting is the conscription of energy. And it is the basis of, well, let's call it what it is, sex trafficking, child abuse, all of the above. So this form of loosh harvesting is a physical energy satisfaction. And it's intoxicating. And combined with the total disregard for the plasma energy fulfillment, the plasma energy feeding, then it becomes absolutely vital. And so this is how things have been operating. And as long as you go along, you can get along. But, there's a penalty that goes along with that. And because of the delay in consequences, we don't see that direct relationship. That direct relationship will come into play through the balancing of the souls, because the souls will do that on an automatic basis. And so this is the beauty of the ethos of the universe. But in the meantime, through the delay of consequences, we all also have an ability to recognize the difference and to adjust accordingly. And so once you know, and this is the problem with knowledge, once you know, it behooves you to have responsibility. That's the problem. So those who don't have the knowledge are quite content not to have the knowledge, because then they don't have to have the responsibility. And if they don't have the responsibility, then they have no pressure. And that's really, kind of what they're seeking, to be able to kind of extricate themselves from society. Well, I need to participate in society. So maybe if I make myself so disabled that society would provide for me, then I can get that energy, which is a form of stealing, if you will. But if you are legitimately handicapped, that's what it's there for. I'm suggesting that we have numerous cases where that's not the case. Anyway, the point of the matter is, striving to be handicapped is striving for nothing. You don't strive for that. Striving to be last is not striving at all. Do we have to strive to be part of the universe? Do we have to strive to be enhanced beings, like elevated beings? Do we have to strive to elevate our souls? No, we're already there. What we have to do is acknowledge it and allow that energy to flow. We have to allow that energy to flow because that energy flows at a higher rate. It is in a higher dimension. It has a higher transfer state. So by focusing on the physical dimension state, we are slowing things down to the point where it's even stopping. So are you a starter or are you a stopper? That's the question. You know, are you participant or, you know, are you a roadblock? What are you? You know, how do you want to work? And can you make a difference? So the realization has to come in that everything that you've done up until now has no bearing on what you do in the future, insofar as holding you back from your possibilities. The possibilities are there every single day, every day. So all we have to do is exercise those possibilities. But how do we exercise those possibilities? You know, when it costs, you know, $250,000 to take a joyride to the limits of the magnetosphere. So now we can, through the cups of life, for pennies on the dollar, be able to enjoy the benefits of the plasma science. Oh, and so now we're on a journey where we start to realize, hey, we can maintain our physicality. We can maintain this low physical energy, and we can play with the higher physical energy. And this is the school that we're going through. I'm just going to stop right there.
Well,
so
as
much.
we've learned from the virus, that people really don't have to go to work anymore. And I think the fellow's rather clever in a way. Hopefully he's not stealing, but maybe he'll spend more time learning about
No, but they
things.
don't. They don't.
Well, we'll leave that up to them.
I know, and that's what you have to do.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
that doesn't bother us so much.
You broadcast, and they choose to take it. That is the essence of free will. And to have free will and have a delay in consequences is where the problem is. So some people want to abuse that. And we need to be skillful to not partake in that kind of abuse. And once we can do that, then we conserve our own energy. And then when we learn how energy moves, then we can actually improve our vitality. And so if we have to use the cups of life to facilitate our movement in that direction, so be it. And understand that eventually we don't have to do that. So we can, shall we say, transcend the various dimensions. Yes, we can. But, you know, in the meantime, we came here for a reason. So if your reason is to go along to get along, then you came for no reason whatsoever, because that occupation is taken. You know, try and do something different and see how easy it is. And I'll tell you what, it hasn't been easy at all. And so what is the reason for that? And then when we find that answer, and we have found the answer, the reason for that is because there are some people who are quite satisfied with living in the lowest energy state. And so we have to understand that the Lush harvesting, the harvesting of energy through the stealing of energy, is in a lower physical state. It is a lower physical energy feeding state. And it violates universal laws. That's the point. So because there are no direct consequences, we think that there's not a problem. Well, there is a problem. And this was made totally apparent to me. And in that process, great, we got the health back. Okay, well, this is good. Do we go back to the way we did things before? Well, in my case, I decided no. Why? Because what I did before got me in the jackpot. So I changed something and got out of the jackpot. So why would I go back and do what I did before? It's like, you know, it's like going to Las Vegas, losing your shirt, and then, you go and work for a living and you make your money and you say, well, I'm going to go back to Las Vegas and get my money back. No, you're going to lose your shirt again. Okay, because that's a loser's game. So as long as we keep playing the loser's game, we're going to be losers. So the winner's game is very easy. Life wants to live. The universe is bountiful. It provides all the energy that you need. Just love and give and have good intentions. Think good, be good, do good. Doobie doobie do. Over to you, Mark.
Okay. Sounds like you're interacting in a way with that individual. You know, I wanted to say, let's go and hear from Mr. Kesh in the last workshop, the 390. He's been here so many times in the past and he's put so much energy, sort of wound us up in a way that he's probably out, I was thinking, enjoying life, maybe playing tennis or golf or at a soccer stadium or something along that line. And all of a sudden, guess who I saw just come into the meeting? But I think we should go into this workshop for at least 10 or 15 minutes. And the whole premise of this workshop is to give us the ability to stop killing and consuming, which is a big, big point, even though we don't all see it that way at the moment. I thought we'd just spend about 15 minutes in the 390. I think Mr. Kesh will go over the beauty of the Romanian conference and maybe a few minutes more into that. And then we could have some interactions after that. Would that be okay with everyone?
Perfect.
Okay, let's do that. Let's try and do that.